This property is now under HOA jurisdiction. Patricia Whitmore stood on my grandfather's dock in a cream-colored blazer and designer heels that had no business on weathered wood. She held a leather portfolio like a shield and spoke with the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. The 2023 boundary revision places your cabin within Lakeside Manor jurisdiction. Mr. Hayes, that means you're subject to our architectural standards. I looked down at the orange violation notice she just handed me. $47,000 in fines. For a cabin my grandfather built in 1952 with timber he cut himself. You're standing on private property, I said, voice level. Property that's been in my family for 72 years, before your HOA existed, before this whole development was even a thought. Her smile tightened. I understand this is emotional, but the legal reality is clear. We have documentation showing you agreed to jurisdiction in 2001. Your signature is on file. I never signed anything. Then we have a problem, Mr. Hayes, because our records say otherwise. She turned to leave, heels clicking against the dock. You have 30 days to respond. I strongly suggest you hire an attorney. I stood there holding that orange notice as she walked back to her white SUV, and something cold settled in my chest. This wasn't a misunderstanding, this was a setup. And whoever forged that signature just made the biggest mistake of their life. Because I'm Daniel Hayes, 68 years old, and I spent 40 years as a forensic document examiner for the FBI. I know forgery when I see it. Time to go to work. My name is Daniel Hayes. I live at 1847 Lakeview Road in Banner Elk, North Carolina, a small town in the Blue Ridge Mountains, where the lake still runs clean and the old families still remember when land meant something more than property values. The cabin behind me sits on 2 acres of shoreline my grandfather bought in 1952 after he came home from Korea. He built it with his own hands, 16-inch white oak logs, hand-hewn beams, a stone fireplace he mortared himself. Every board, every nail, every shingle placed with the kind of precision that comes from military engineering training. I inherited it in 2008 when he passed at 89, spent the last 16 years maintaining it exactly to his specifications. The deed sits in my safe upstairs, recorded with Watauga County in 1952, chain of title unbroken, taxes paid every year without fail. We earned this land. We built on it. Nobody gave us anything. And now some HOA president with forged paperwork thought she could take it away. I walked back inside, the notice heavy in my hand. My wife, Jennifer, was in the kitchen, flour dusting her hands from the bread she was making. She took one look at my face and set down the dough. What happened? I handed her the notice. She read it slowly, her expression shifting from confusion to anger. $47,000? For what? Violations of standards that didn't exist when this cabin was built. I pulled out my phone and photographed the notice front, back, every detail. They're claiming I agreed to HOA jurisdiction in 2001, saying my signature is on file. You never signed anything. I know. Jennifer's been with me 30 years. She was a paralegal before she retired. She understands how these things work. They forged it, she said quietly. They forged it, I confirmed. The safe in my office is a Browning Pro Steel 1,200 pounds of steel that would take a cutting torch and 4 hours to breach. My grandfather installed it in 1975 after the cabin got broken into by teenagers looking for beer money. I spun the dial. The tumblers fell into place with satisfying clicks. Inside, the original 1952 deed, hand-typed on an old Underwood, my grandfather's signature bold and clear in fountain pen ink. Survey maps from 1952, 1974, and 1998, all showing identical property boundaries. 72 years of consecutive tax records. And one more thing, my FBI credentials. Retired Special Agent Daniel Hayes, Documents Division. 40 years examining questioned documents, forged signatures, altered records. I'd testified in over 200 federal cases, sent people to prison for trying to do exactly what Patricia Whitmore had just attempted. I pulled out the original deed and laid it on my desk beside the HOA notice. The contrast was stark. My deed. Authentic 1952 document, age-appropriate paper, period-correct typewriter font. My grandfather's genuine signature with consistent pressure and flow. The HOA's supposed 2001 agreement? I'd need to see it, but I already knew what I'd find. Modern paper trying to look old. Forged signature that wouldn't match my actual signing patterns. Digital manipulation disguised as photocopying. I'd seen it 1,000 times. But this time, it was personal. I called my former colleague at the FBI, Sarah Chen. She'd taken over the Documents Division when I retired. "Danny," she answered warmly, "tell me you're not calling about a case. I need a favor. Personal matter, but it's right in our wheelhouse." I explained the situation, the HOA claim, the supposed 2001 agreement, the signature I'd never made. She was quiet for a moment. "You're saying they forged your signature to manufacture jurisdiction over your property?" That's exactly what I'm saying. Danny, that's mail fraud if they filed it with the county. That's federal. I know, but I need to prove it first. I need access to the original document, proper examination, expert analysis. Send me everything you've got. If this is what you think it is, I'll make sure it gets the attention it deserves. That afternoon, I drove to the Watauga County Register of Deeds office. The clerk was a woman in her 50s, named Margaret, who'd been there longer than I'd owned the cabin. "Mr. Hayes," she greeted me. "Don't usually see you in here. I need to pull some records. Lakeside Manor HOA documents, specifically anything filed around 2001 showing property owner agreements to jurisdiction." She typed into her computer, frowning. "I'm not seeing. Wait. Here. 2001, but it's flagged." "Flagged how?" "Amended filing in 2023. Original document was supposedly misfiled. Corrected version submitted by..." She looked up at me. "By the HOA president, Patricia Whitmore." The pieces clicked into place. She hadn't just forged a document, she'd backdated it. Then filed a corrected version in 2023, making it look like the original had always existed but was simply misfiled. It was smart. It gave her plausible deniability. "Oh, we just found the original paperwork," while manufacturing a legal foundation for her jurisdiction claim. "Can I get copies of both versions?" I asked. "Original and corrected?" "I can get you the corrected version now. The original is in deep storage. I'd have to request it. Probably take a week." "Request it?" "I'll wait." Margaret printed the corrected version and handed it to me. I studied it right there at her counter, and everything I expected to find was there. My supposed signature at the bottom. Computer-printed form trying to look like a scanned 2001 document. Agreement language placing my property under HOA jurisdiction. Date, the 15th of November, 2001. But the tells were obvious. The paper was too clean, no age yellowing, no storage degradation, no handling wear. The signature was wrong, the pressure points didn't match my natural signing motion, the H in Hayes had a loop I'd never used, and the overall flow was too slow, too careful. Someone had traced my signature from a reference document, probably a scanned copy from county records. The ultimate tell? The document referenced Lakeside Manor HOA, but that organization hadn't been incorporated until 2018. In 2001, this development didn't exist. There was no HOA to agree to. "Margaret," I said carefully, "when was Lakeside Manor HOA officially incorporated?" She checked. "March 2018. And this document claims I agreed to their jurisdiction in 2001? "Appears so. 17 years before the organization existed." She went very still. "Oh, yeah, oh." I drove home with copies of everything, my mind already building the case. This wasn't just fraud, this was systematic, premeditated, and sloppy. They'd relied on the assumption that I wouldn't look closely, wouldn't have the expertise to spot the forgery, wouldn't have the resources to fight back. They'd picked the wrong target. That evening, Jennifer and I sat on the back deck watching the sun set over the lake. The water turned from silver to gold to deep amber, colors shifting like something alive. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I'm thinking they've done this before." She nodded slowly. "You think you're not the first?" "I know I'm not the first. This operation is too smooth, too confident. They've used this playbook already. Successfully." "So, what do we do?" I pulled out my phone and opened the county GIS database, public property records accessible to anyone. We find the others. It took 3 hours, but the pattern emerged. In the past 5 years, Lakeside Manor HOA had expanded from 87 original properties to 103. Those 16 additional properties had several things in common. They were all older structures built before 1980, all small parcels under 5 acres, all owned by single individuals or families, and all voluntarily joined the HOA between 2021 and 2023, right before being hit with massive violation fines. 8 of those 16 properties had been sold in the last 2 years, all for below market value, all to LLC shell companies with registered agents I couldn't immediately identify. But I could trace them. "Jennifer," I said, showing her the map with pins marking each acquired property, "this is organized. This is a land grab disguised as HOA enforcement. We need to talk to the others," she said. "The ones who haven't sold yet. Tomorrow," I agreed. First thing, next morning, we drove to the first address on my list. Small cottage, maybe 1,960 seconds. Construction, well-maintained garden, American flag on the porch. An elderly man answered late 70s, Vietnam veteran jacket, wary eyes that had seen too much disappointment. "Mr. Carson?" I introduced myself. "I'm Daniel Hayes from down on Lakeview Road. I think we might have a common problem with the HOA." His wariness shifted instantly. Recognition, relief, hope, struggling against resignation. "You got hit too? $47,000 in fines for violations of standards my cabin doesn't need to meet. Built in 1952, been here longer than this HOA has existed." He opened the door wider. "Come in, please." His living room was neat, spare furniture from another era, well maintained but showing age. Photos covered the mantel, black and white images of a young man in uniform, color shots of children and grandchildren, a faded picture of this very cottage being built. He pulled out a folder from a drawer. The action was practiced, like he'd been waiting for someone to ask. Inside was the same orange notice, different amount. $34,000, he said, voice tight. "For a dock they say violates setback requirements. Same dock that's been here since 1962 when my father built it after he came back from World War II. He drove every nail himself. I helped him. I was 14 years old. He showed me photos, his father in work clothes, young Carson handing him tools, the dock taking shape piece by piece. Dad died in 2005. Left me this place with one instruction. Don't let anyone take it, son. We earned this. Now some woman in a fancy blazer with forged paperwork is trying to do exactly that. Did you agree to HOA jurisdiction? Hell no. Never signed anything. But they got paperwork saying I did. Dated 2002. Got my signature on it. He showed me a photocopy. Same tells I'd seen on my own document. Wrong pressure points, traced motion, letter formation that didn't match natural signing. The C in Carson had a loop that was too perfect, too deliberate. Real signatures have micro variations. Forgeries are too consistent. It's forged, I said. I know it's forged, but how do I prove that? I can prove it, I told him. I'm ex-FBI, spent 40 years examining questioned documents. You can testify to that? I can, but I need the original document, proper forensic examination, probably expert corroboration, and I need to find everyone else they've done this to. Build a pattern. Make it impossible to claim this was just a one-time mistake." He was quiet for a long moment, looking at the photos on his mantle, his father building the dock. His wife smiling on that same dock years later, his grandchildren jumping off it into the lake. "Mr. Hayes," he said, finally, "my father came back from Normandy Beach, saw his friends die in the sand, came home and built this place because he needed to create something after seeing so much destruction." He looked at me directly. He told me a man who won't defend what's his doesn't deserve to keep it. I'm 81 years old. I'm tired, but I'll fight. For my father. For this place. For the principle that you can't just steal from people with paperwork. "Then we fight together," I said. Second house. Newer construction. Maybe 1,990 seconds. Well-kept lawn with toys scattered across it. The wife, Amanda Pierce, answered with a toddler on her hip and another child visible inside watching cartoons. When I explained why we were there, concern flashed across her face. She called her husband. David Pierce came to the door in work clothes contractor. I guessed from the Carhartt pants and tool belt tan lines. "We got the notice 3 months ago," he said, stepping onto the porch so the kids wouldn't hear. $28,000. For maintaining our property as a short-term rental, even though we've never rented it. Not once. Ever. "Whose house was this before you?" I asked. "My wife's grandmother. She built it in 1985, lived here until she died in 2019. Left it to Amanda. We moved in from Charlotte in 2020. Needed space, wanted our kids to grow up somewhere with clean air and a yard." He pulled out his phone and showed me the HOA letter. Same format, same orange notice, same impossible claim. They say we agreed to HOA jurisdiction in 2021, but look at the signature. He showed me the photocopy. It was Amanda's grandmother's name, Helen Foster, signed in a shaky hand that could have been elderly penmanship or could have been a bad forgery. "Here's the problem," David said. Helen died the 17th of March 2019. The deed transfer to Amanda wasn't finalized until July 2020. This supposed agreement is dated November 2021, so they forged a signature for someone who was dead, I said slowly. Exactly, and when we pointed that out, the HOA said it must be a paperwork error, that they'd correct it. Then they sent a revised agreement with Amanda's signature, which she never signed. Amanda appeared in the doorway, having settled the kids. "Mr. Hayes, we have 2 young children. We both work full-time. David runs his own contracting business. I'm a physical therapist at the hospital. Fighting the HOA means lawyers, court dates, time off work we can't afford. We've been trying to figure out if it's cheaper to just pay the $28,000 than to fight it." Her voice cracked. "But that's not right. My grandmother built this house with money she saved for 40 years. She wanted it to stay in the family. And now some organization that didn't even exist when she was alive is trying to take it? It's not right," Jennifer agreed, "and you shouldn't have to choose between your children's security and your grandmother's legacy. What if we lose?" David asked. "If we fight and lose, we're worse off. Legal bills plus fines. We could lose everything." I understood his fear. It was rational, reasonable, but it was also exactly what Patricia counted on, that people would be too scared to fight back. "If we don't fight," I said carefully, "she wins. And then she does this to the next family, and the next. Someone has to stand up. And I have resources you don't: FBI background, document expertise, contacts in federal law enforcement. I'm not asking you to fight alone. I'm asking you to fight with us." David and Amanda looked at each other in that wordless communication couples develop. Finally, Amanda nodded. "Okay, we'll testify." Third property, small ranch house, immaculate landscaping, ramp leading to the front door. Margaret Foster answered in a wheelchair, early 80s. Sharp eyes, hands gnarled with arthritis. "You're here about the HOA, she said before I could introduce myself. "Heard from Robert Carson, you were making the rounds. Come in. Her living room was full of photos and awards. Watauga County Educator of the Year, 1987. North Carolina Teacher of Excellence, 1994. A lifetime of service documented on her walls. They sent me the notice 4 months ago, she said without preamble. $53,000. For structural noncompliance, inadequate maintenance, and my favorite, visual blight affecting community standards. She gestured around her immaculate home. My husband built this house in 1975. He was a carpenter union man, craftsman. Every joint is perfect. Every board is set right. He died in 2011. Cancer. Left me this place free and clear, completely paid off. I've maintained it exactly the way he would have wanted. Did you sign anything agreeing to HOA jurisdiction? Never. Not once. But they have my signature on some document from 2003. Funny thing about that, in 2003, I had a stroke. Lost most of the function in my right hand. Took 2 years of physical therapy to learn to write again. My signature changed completely after that. She showed me a comparison. Pre-stroke signature from a 2002 tax document. Fluid, confident, clear. Post-stroke signature from a 2004 medical form. Shakier, different letter formation, compensating movements. The HOA's 2003 agreement. Perfect match to pre-stroke signature. Physiologically impossible. They didn't just forge it, I said. They forged it badly. That's what I thought. But when I pointed it out, they said I was misremembering that maybe the stroke happened later than I thought. That I should check my medical records. Like, I don't know when I had a stroke. Her voice went hard. Mr. Hayes, I taught high school English for 42 years. I taught kids to question authority, to demand evidence, to stand up for truth. Now I'm supposed to roll over when someone lies to my face with forged paperwork? No, ma'am, you're not. Good. Because I may be old, and I may be in a wheelchair, but I'm not done fighting. You tell me what you need, and I'll do it. By the end of the day, we had 5 confirmed targets willing to testify. But we needed more than testimony. We needed the pattern documented, the vulnerability profiling exposed, the systematic nature of the fraud proven. That evening, I pulled property records for all 16 parcels the HOA had acquired. Cross-referenced them with demographic data from public records. Built a spreadsheet showing property owner ages averaging 71 years old, household incomes averaging $43,000, well below county median. Property values all under $400,000 in a market where average was $575,000. Family structures, 9 single-person households, 4 elderly couples, 3 young families. Acquisition timeline, 14 of 16 sales occurred within 18 months of HOA jurisdiction claim. Patricia hadn't just been opportunistic, she'd been methodical. She'd identified the most vulnerable property owners, people least likely to have resources to fight back, and systematically targeted them. It was economic predation disguised as community standards enforcement. This is evil, Jennifer said, looking at the spreadsheet. This is calculated, systematic targeting of the weakest people. It's also prosecutable, I replied. Because this pattern shows intent, this isn't accidental overreach. This is planned, coordinated theft. That night, I compiled everything. Photographs of all 5 notices, copies of the forged agreements, property records showing ownership timelines, demographic data, pattern established, evidence documented, case building. Then I called Sarah Chen back. I've got 5 confirmed forgeries, Sarah. All the same MO, all filed by the same person. Patricia Whitmore, HOA president. This is a RICO case. Send me everything, she said. I'm opening a file. The counterstrike came fast. 3 days after I started contacting other property owners, Patricia filed a lawsuit. Patricia Whitmore, president of Lakeside Manor HOA v. Daniel Hayes. The charges: harassment of HOA personnel, defamation, interference with HOA operations, creating a hostile environment, damages sought $500,000 plus immediate forfeiture of property. It was transparent, desperate, but dangerous. Because now we weren't just in an administrative dispute, we were in active litigation. I read through the filing that night. 10 days until preliminary hearing. I called my lawyer, James Mitchell, property law specialist, former prosecutor, sharp as they come. Jim, I need you to file a motion. What kind of motion? Motion to compel production of original documents. Every agreement, they claim, grants them jurisdiction, not copies, originals. For forensic examination, he was quiet. Danny, if those documents are forged, they have to either produce forgeries you can prove are fake, or admit they don't have originals. Exactly. That's brilliant. Also risky. If they realize what you're doing, they'll destroy the evidence. They're not going to destroy it. They think it's good. They think it'll hold up because nobody's challenged them before. All right, I'll file tomorrow. But Danny, this is about to get nasty. He was right. That night, someone drove by our cabin at 2 a.m. Slow roll, no headlights, stopping at the property line. Jennifer woke me. Someone's out there. I looked out the window. Black SUV, tinted windows, just sitting there, watching. I called the sheriff's office. Deputy arrived 20 minutes later, but the SUV was gone. They're trying to intimidate you. The deputy said, young woman named Torres, sharp eyes. Document everything. Photos, times, descriptions, build a harassment file. I did. And the next night, they came back. This time, with cameras. I spotted 3 of them mounted in trees on the edge of my property, aimed at the cabin. Wireless, motion activated, professional surveillance equipment. I documented each one, photographed from multiple angles, noted exact locations, left them in place. Evidence of harassment. Evidence of escalation. The motion to compel was granted. Judge's order. HOA must produce original jurisdiction agreements for all disputed properties within 14 days. Patricia's lawyers tried to fight it, but the judge was firm. If these agreements exist and are legitimate, producing them should be simple. We waited. Day 12, Patricia's lead attorney filed an emergency motion. Original documents lost in office fire 2022, only certified copies available. Convenient. Except, there was no record of any office fire. I checked with the Banner Elk Fire Department, the insurance companies, even local news archives. No fire. Ever. Jim filed an immediate response. Plaintiff claims fire destroyed originals, but provides no fire report, insurance claim, or documentation of loss. Convenient timing given court order to produce documents. We request investigation into whether original documents ever existed. The judge ordered a hearing. 3 days later, we sat in that courtroom, me, Jennifer, Jim, the 5 other property owners, and a courtroom full of people who'd heard about the case. Patricia sat at plaintiff's table with her 3 attorneys. She wore navy blue, trying to look reasonable and professional. The judge, Harold Morrison, 30 years on the bench, entered, and we all stood. This case has raised serious questions, he began. Questions about jurisdiction, about fraud, about systematic abuse of HOA authority. We're here today to address one specific issue, the alleged fire that destroyed original jurisdiction documents. He looked at Patricia's lead attorney. Counselor, present your evidence of this fire. The attorney stood. Your Honor, the fire occurred in August 2022 at our administrative office. Due to the nature of the incident, many records were lost. Do you have a fire report? The report is being located. Do you have an insurance claim for the loss? We're working with our insurance company to. Do you have any evidence whatsoever that this fire occurred? Silence. The attorney sat down. Judge Morrison turned to Jim. Defense? Jim stood and placed a document on the overhead projector. Your Honor, this is a statement from the Banner Elk Fire Department confirming no commercial or residential fires were reported at any address associated with Lakeside Manor HOA in 2022. This is a statement from insurance confirming no fire damage claims were filed. And this is a statement from Patricia Whitmore herself from September 2022, thanking members for a successful year with no mention of any fire. He paused. Your Honor, the fire never happened. It's a fabrication designed to avoid producing documents that either don't exist or are provably forged. The courtroom went silent. Judge Morrison studied the documents for a long moment. Then he looked at Patricia. Miss Whitmore, under oath, did a fire destroy your HOA's original jurisdiction documents? Her attorney leaned over, whispered urgently. Patricia's face had gone pale. The fire, it was a small incident, not officially reported. Miss Whitmore, I'll ask again. Did a fire destroy these documents? No. The word came out barely above a whisper. So, the documents still exist? Some documents. Where are the original jurisdiction agreements that Mr. Hayes and these other property owners supposedly signed? She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Judge Morrison's expression hardened. Miss Whitmore, I'm ordering an immediate investigation into possible fraud and document forgery. All enforcement actions against the defendants are stayed, pending investigation, and I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for potential criminal charges. The gavel came down. Patricia's attorneys immediately moved for recess, but the judge denied it. One more thing, he said. Mr. Hayes, I understand you're a retired FBI documents examiner? I stood. Yes, Your Honor. 40 years in the field. Would you be willing to examine any documents the HOA produces, should they suddenly find these originals? I would, Your Honor, he nodded. Then consider yourself appointed as a court expert. You'll have full access to any documents presented as evidence. We left the courtroom in silence. Outside, the other property owners gathered around us. Mr. Carson shook my hand. You did it. You actually did it. Not yet, I said, but we're getting there. The break came 2 days later. A woman knocked on our door at 7 a.m., early 30s, exhausted eyes, clutching a laptop case like a lifeline. Mr. Hayes, my name is Rebecca Walsh. I used to work for the HOA. I need to talk to you. Jennifer made coffee while Rebecca sat at our kitchen table, hands shaking. I was their administrative assistant, she began. Started in 2021. Normal office work, filing, correspondence, board minutes. It was supposed to be simple part-time work. She opened her laptop. In 2022, Patricia asked me to create documents. She called it Consolidating Records. She gave me names, property addresses, told me to create jurisdiction agreements dated back to 2001, 2002, different years, told me to forge signatures using samples from county records. Rebecca's voice cracked. I said no, told her it was fraud. She said if I didn't do it, she'd make sure I never worked in this county again, that she'd sue me for breach of contract, that she'd ruin me financially and professionally. So you did it, I said quietly. She nodded, tears running down her face. I have 3 kids. I'm a single mother. I was terrified, so I created the documents, forged the signatures, backdated the files. She looked up at me. But I kept copies. Every original email where she gave instructions, every draft document showing the creation dates, everything. She pulled up a folder on her laptop. Inside, 47 emails from Patricia with explicit instructions to forge documents. Draft agreements showing digital creation dates in 2022 to 2023, not 2001 to 2002. A list of 16 target properties with owner demographics and vulnerability assessments. Complete documentation of systematic fraud. Why now? Jennifer asked gently. Why are you coming forward now? Because I saw what they're doing to you, Rebecca said. Saw them file that lawsuit, try to intimidate you, lie in court about a fire that never happened, and I realized if I stayed quiet, I was just as guilty. More guilty, because I knew it was wrong, and I helped anyway. She pushed the laptop toward me. This is everything. I'll testify. I'll cooperate fully. I need this to stop. I called Jim immediately. He arrived within the hour with a court reporter. Rebecca gave a full statement under oath, Every detail, every instruction, every forged document. 3 hours of testimony that dismantled Patricia's entire operation. When we finished, Jim looked at me. Danny, this isn't just fraud anymore. This is RICO territory. Organized criminal enterprise. Systematic theft through color of law. We're talking federal charges. Good, I said. Then they'll answer for it in the right court. Patricia's response was immediate and vicious. That night, someone slashed my truck tires, left a note on the windshield, drop it or lose everything. I photographed the note, the tires, called Deputy Torres. She took a report, dusted for prints, but the message was clear. They were escalating from legal pressure to physical intimidation. The next morning, I found a dead raccoon on my porch. Throat cut, blood everywhere. Jennifer was the one who found it. This is terrorism, she said. I agreed. We documented it, called Torres, again, called Jim, called Sarah Chen at the FBI. They're trying to scare you into dropping the case, Sarah said. Classic intimidation. But Danny, they're also creating a pattern of harassment that strengthens your case. Keep documenting. Stay safe. And know that every threat they make is another charge we can file. We installed more cameras, changed our routines. I started carrying my old FBI service weapon again. It came 3 nights later. 11 p.m., I was working on case documents when I heard the vehicles. 3 SUVs, no lights, rolling up to my property line. 6 men got out wearing dark clothes, tactical gear. They spread out across my property with flashlights and surveying equipment, setting up cameras, taking measurements, acting like they owned the place. I stepped onto the porch. My service weapon was visible in its holster, hands nowhere near it, just present. You're trespassing on private property, I called out. This is your only warning. Leave now. The lead man turned toward me. We have authorization from the HOA to conduct a compliance survey. The HOA has no authority here. I have a federal court order staying all enforcement actions. You have no warrant, no authorization, no legal basis. You're trespassing. Sir, we're just doing our job. Your job is illegal. Leave, now. They hesitated. I didn't move, didn't touch my weapon, just stood there. Finally, one of them said something to the lead man. They packed up fast and left. I called Torres again. By morning, video was circulating online. 15 seconds of me on the porch, weapon visible, no audio, no context. Patricia was controlling the narrative. The preliminary hearing was set for Friday morning. Jim spent the week preparing, organizing evidence into 3 clear categories. First, property rights. My deed from 1952, unbroken chain of title, continuous tax payments, historical proof of ownership. Second, fraud. Rebecca's testimony, the forged documents, the impossible signatures, the fake fire story. Third, RICO violations. Pattern of systematic targeting, 16 properties acquired through fraud, shell companies used to hide ownership, harassment and intimidation to force compliance. Any one of these should be enough, Jim said. But we're proving all 3. Friday morning came cold and clear. The courthouse was packed, news cameras, reporters, community members. All 5 other property owners were there. Rebecca sat in the witness section, hands clasped, ready to testify. Patricia arrived with 4 lawyers now. She wore gray, conservative, trying to look reasonable. Judge Morrison entered and we all stood. He reviewed the docket, then looked at both tables. This case has generated significant attention and serious allegations. We're here to determine if there's sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Plaintiff may present. Patricia's lead attorney stood. Your Honor, this is a case of one man's refusal to accept community standards. Mr. Hayes has launched a campaign of harassment, intimidation, and defamation against our client. The jurisdiction documents are legitimate, properly filed, and legally binding. He tried to rehabilitate Patricia's position, make it sound like reasonable enforcement met with unreasonable resistance. When he finished, Judge Morrison turned to Jim. Defense? Jim stood. Your Honor, I'll be brief. He placed the first document on the overhead. This is Mr. Hayes' deed, 1,952. Unbroken ownership for 72 years. Second document. This is the HOA's agreement allegedly signed by Mr. Hayes in 2001. Notice it references Lakeside Manor HOA, an organization that wasn't incorporated until 2018. He let that hang. This document claims Mr. Hayes agreed to jurisdiction by an organization that didn't exist. That's impossible. Third document. This is forensic analysis by FBI documents expert Sarah Chen showing 94% probability of forgery. Signature pressure points don't match Mr. Seto. Hayes' known exemplars, letter formation is inconsistent, and paper composition is wrong for the alleged date. Fourth, testimony from former HOA employee Rebecca Walsh confirming she was ordered to create forged documents by Patricia Whitmore in 2022 and backdate them. We have 47 emails with explicit instructions. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Jim raised his voice. This isn't one fraud, Your Honor. It's 16 properties targeted. 16 families victimized. 16 forged documents used to manufacture jurisdiction and collect illegal fines. Total theft, over $600,000. He placed the final exhibit. This is a summary of all 16 cases showing systematic targeting of vulnerable property owners and a clear pattern of harassment. Judge Morrison studied the documents for a long moment. The courtroom was silent. Finally, he looked up. Miss Whitmore, I'm going to ask you directly. Under oath, did you order the creation of forged jurisdiction documents? Her lead attorney tried to intervene, but the judge cut him off. I want to hear from Miss Whitmore herself. Patricia stood slowly. Her face had lost all color. Your Honor, the documents were created to consolidate. Yes or no, Miss Whitmore? Did you order forgery of jurisdiction agreements? Silence. Then, barely audible, yes. The courtroom exploded. Judge Morrison banged his gavel. Order. He looked at Patricia with pure disgust. Miss Whitmore, you've admitted to fraud under oath. I'm dismissing all claims against Mr. Hayes and the other property owners with prejudice. All fines are voided. All jurisdiction claims are invalidated. I'm issuing a permanent injunction against Lakeside Manor HOA, preventing any enforcement action against properties added after 2018 pending full investigation. He paused. And I'm referring you to the U.S. Attorney's Office for prosecution under federal fraud and RICO statutes. Bailiff, Miss Whitmore is remanded to custody, pending arraignment. 2 county officers approached her table. They read her rights, placed her in handcuffs, and let her out as cameras flashed and people stood watching in stunned silence. Jim turned to me. You did it. I shook my head. We did it. All of us. Outside, the 5 other property owners gathered around us. Mr. Carson shook my hand with tears in his eyes. My father built our cottage. He'd be proud of what you did here. The Pierces hugged us. Our kids get to keep their grandmother's house. Margaret Foster just smiled. Thank you for standing up. Rebecca approached last, looking exhausted but relieved. 3 months later, the U.S. attorney filed formal charges. Patricia Whitmore faced 16 counts of mail fraud, 16 counts of wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, racketeering, and criminal harassment. Her trial was set for the following spring. The HOA was dissolved, its assets frozen, pending restitution proceedings. Every property owner who'd been targeted received notification that all fines were voided and they could file claims for damages. 8 families who'd already sold filed civil suits to recover their losses. On a warm afternoon in early June, Jennifer and I sat on the dock watching the sun set over the lake. The water turned from silver to gold to deep copper, colors shifting in that endless cycle my grandfather had loved. You think it's over? Jennifer asked. The legal part? Maybe. The precedent? That's just beginning. Every HOA case in the state is going to be scrutinized now. Every forged document is going to be questioned. We changed the way these things get investigated. I looked back at the cabin. Every log my grandfather had cut and shaped, every beam he'd set, every stone in that fireplace, still standing, still ours. He would have been proud, Jennifer said quietly. Yeah, I agreed. He would have. The lake held the reflection of the sky, endless and deep. My grandfather used to say, water remembers everything, the storms, the calm, the people who lived along its shores. And now it would remember this, that some things can't be taken by paperwork or intimidation or manufactured authority. Some things stand because they were built right and defended well. The water darkened to black, stars appearing in its surface. The cabin stood solid behind us. The deed was in the safe. The case was won, and we were exactly where we belonged. Some fights you don't choose. They choose you. But when they do, you have two options. Give up what's yours, or stand your ground and prove that justice isn't just a word, it's a choice you make every day to defend what's true against what's convenient. We chose to stand, and the lake, which remembers everything, would remember that too.